I will be assembling a K-Tool International teardown table. The chickens have started without me, but they quickly realized they don't possess the requisite skills for this, so they moved along. After I adjust my drawers, I'm going to go get my tools, and we'll get this thing rolling. I like to use bolt cutters to open these shipping bands because some of them are made out of metal, some of them are heavy plastic. I think they put some of each on this one. It's easier to tear through things with bolt cutters. And I always get a little nervous when we receive something by freight because you never really know the condition that it's going to be in. These things get jostled around. Sometimes they get mishandled at the factories even, and there's some damage that occurs on the factory floor, and then somebody just throws a box over it because they don't want to get caught. And then you receive a bad unit, even though the packaging is intact. But this was delivered from the freight carrier Saya, who is outstanding. I love getting stuff from them because they always handle things very well. And the guys leave and hang around and help you unpack it just to be sure that nothing's been damaged. But looking at the shipping container on this, I was pretty confident that everything was okay, so I didn't do that while the driver was here. So the first piece I took out was the bottom shelf, and the 4 legs followed. Everything was in great shape. There was no damage that we could see. I'll point out a little bit later on. There's one thing that broke on the drawer slide, but that was no big deal. One of the rivets sheared off that was holding a drawer slide on, but that was an easy fix. I just popped a new one in there. But everything else was in great shape. So the only thing left in the box now was just the container that had the casters and the hardware and the entire top, which is upside down. On the left-hand side is the drawer, and on the right-hand side is that gray plastic drain pan. So that's it, just a set of bolts there with washers, lock washers and nuts, 4 casters on the drain pan. There's the bottom shelf and the 4 legs. From here, the assembly goes along without a hitch. Whenever you assemble anything, do not fasten your fasteners down all the way. Leave them loose in case there's any fitment issues. Sometimes you have to adjust things a little bit to get everything to line up. So what I'm doing here is just very loosely putting 2 bolts per leg in place just to hold them up until we have everything set. And then Kathy came out to help. The bottom shelf was too cumbersome to handle by myself, so she held one end while I got the holes lined up and inserted the bolts. The construction on this table is pretty basic. You don't really need anything fancy from a teardown table. But this one will do a good job with small to medium-sized jobs. I wouldn't recommend it for a heavy transmission teardown. The table has a capacity of 550 pounds. But there's heavier gauge tables available for larger teardown jobs. They make them up to 10 feet long and have drainage gutters in the back of them and with a 1-inch slope front to back. And they're really pricey. This one is not very expensive. It costs under $700. And honestly, I was kind of surprised when my customer asked me to get this for him because he works in a general automotive shop and you don't generally see those guys needing teardown tables. But I was happy to do it for him because I like seeing products like this that I don't normally get a chance to sell. This one was in our flyer for the first quarter of 2022. And he saw it and he approached me with it and asked me to get it for him. We were confident in the fitment at this point. Nothing really needed to be adjusted, but you always want there to be some wiggle room while you line everything up. So now I'm just fastening down the bolts for the bottom shelf, and then Kathy's going to tighten up the bolts for the legs. And the casters have threaded posts. They just screw into the bottom of the legs. And I realized only now after watching the video that I screwed up and put the two locking casters on opposite corners. You want the two locking casters on the same end. And I wasn't even paying attention when I picked them up to put them on. Shame on me, I screwed that up. Yeah, Kathy's putting the other locking caster on after I put the first one on the other corner, so that was my bad. And I'd still like to fix it because I already delivered to the customer. Maybe he'll think it's a feature. Oh, maybe he won't. The table's pretty light. It's pretty easy to stand up on its end, but I always get nervous when something has casters on it, when I flip it over, that it could roll away on me. But Kathy was there to help me out there, so I went without a hitch, and then we just have to insert the drain pan, which just rides on these two friction rails in there. Easy enough. And here's where we noticed the problem. Kathy went to unlock the drawer, and she noted that it felt loose and didn't look like it lined up correctly. And you can see there it's kind of out of whack on the left side of the drawer. It's pulling out a little bit more than the right side. And then when she pulled the drawer all the way out, she noticed how loose it is. You can see it kind of right there. And when I looked on the drawer slide, one of the rivets that held the slide on had sheared off. It was a pretty simple matter just to pop a new one in there. So we did that, and the thing was 100%. Pretty easy assembly. Cable's 32 inches deep and I think 46 inches high. And the customer was pleasantly surprised because he said that it was larger than he thought it was in the picture. And I said, well, you know, picture wasn't life size. So keep watching because we have some new videos coming up, including a new vlog video where I talk about starting a tool truck business. And we're going to have our regular tools in the hall segments, as well as a flyer drop video that's coming up in the end of March, beginning of April. So do me a favor, click down on the right-hand corner to subscribe so that you don't miss any of it. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, use a tool, don't be one.